right. Happy, what's today? Tuesday. Well, I know it's Tuesday because it's Toolkit Tuesday. So welcome. If you happen to be here live, and if you're not here live, well, then why aren't you? Okay. Oh, let's see. Get one quick refresh here with a whopping 4 votes. A faction has won the day. Yep. Poll is closed. Hey, Ian. So we're going to work on a faction. And of course, I'm going to need plenty of assistance because at some point, I figure, maybe I can have sort of a strongly implied or even explicit setting. So we're working stuff in, we can just kind of dump it in there for just ease of framing out what things are. But without it, we're kind of working from blank. So we know we're going to have a faction. I guess I'll make a list here. We know we're going to have a faction, but we don't know anything about it. So let's just we're just going to make a blank list here. Frederick says I should put together a list of tools to run a good hex game in 5th edition and OSR. Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. It just feels like a lot of work. I guess like everything. It is not a bad idea at all. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, because I was going to say that's sort of like what kind of stuff I do anyway. But maybe having it as a list or something else where people can come through and take it. I might have to. It's a good idea. It's good. Probably take some doing. Probably have to go back through a bunch of the videos and pull out. There are tools I think about the top of my head, and there are other tools that I appreciate looking at, but that just their identities didn't stick with me. So I should probably go back through them. But some kind of list I think would be good. Maybe do it in a way where I can kind of add, maybe throw my 2 cents on top. I don't know. I guess I'm just going to put, so who are you in terms of faction? So right now I'm just thinking about what kind of questions we want to ask. Frederick says, I see a lot of posts where people are lost where to start. Yeah, it's the thing is with a lot of the tools, I guess this is where it gets complicated, or at least where I start to complicate it in my brain, whether it is indeed complex or not, because I think there are great starter tools that are good for, oh, hey, I know nothing, I need to get started, but they're not, just like you have an intro to a course book is great for an intro, but then at some point you become more advanced, you don't necessarily need the intro book anymore. Sometimes they're great references, sometimes they're just great intros, and then once you move past the intro, you don't need to go back to the intro. Then there are some materials that are great once you're at more of an advanced level, but you throw that at the intro person and it's not going to help them a lot. I guess an example I would think of would say an advanced. I don't necessarily mean advanced in terms of, oh, this is quantum mathematics when someone doesn't know algebra. That there might be that, but just things that they just assume you have a lot of background in it, right? So I think of something like Worldographer is more of an advanced tool because it really is giving everything to you. It's making very little assumptions. It isn't really guiding you in much of a way. It's just kind of saying, oh, well, you can generate a big map, great, bleh. Or you can go and do it yourself, great, bleh. But it's not really trying to educate you or hold your hand or do anything like that. It's just like, here's this thing, now, go. Something like World Without Number is probably a great resource for, intro and maybe into advanced. It's got kind of a guided approach, but it also has just tables you can go back to and other things that might be a great sort of intro approach. I'm not sure for hex crawling, but there probably is something out there. But yes, people often get lost, but I think there are lots of reasons for folks getting lost. I have no particular insight on that per se, but I think that it's just a lot in terms of people, one, being interested in it without really knowing what it is, because you just hear the term hex crawl, or they hear it, or maybe they just saw a picture. And then there's just so many different ways to do it. And people are very opinionated. And even all these different, a lot of these materials are themselves opinionated. And then they're opinionated in different ways. So when you read one, you start reading another, and they're giving you cross advice or advice. Oh, 3 landmarks and things per hex. No, do 6. No, roll 1d4. No, do none. Do this, do that. Right? It can, as a newcomer, it can just be a lot. Whereas what you really want to do, I think, to someone who's new is just say, look, here is a technique to do a hex crawl or a hex map or however you want to term it. Just do this. And I'm not saying that even these materials don't do that, but there's just something within this hobby, and I guess maybe this is in all hobbies. I don't know. If I was taking up embroidery, would I read up on one technique and then instead of just learning that technique, want to try to merge it with other techniques, even though I don't even really know the one technique kind of thing? Maybe people do that, but I feel like with tabletop role-playing games and maybe just this in general, I think a lot of people come in and just instead of just saying, okay, look, this is what this technique that someone wrote to do, let me just try that. And and then not take that one, which I'm not even sure how it works yet, and then mix it with 3 other ideas. Let me just read one or maybe read all 3 and then say which one I like and then just try it. But it seems to me that a lot of people just want to mishmash things off the start, which does not help in terms of learning, I guess. But you can't force people to do it, you know. And then you go on the internet and lots of people then start throwing in their 2 cents and it can be just a big mess up. But yeah, it would be a good thing to do. I think it's a valuable, if I don't get around to it, someone out there get to it. And this is the last of some, at this point, fairly cold cappuccino for the working man. So we're looking at a faction. I'm just trying to think about the kind of questions we want to ask about factions. I got who you might want to go to. Maybe I'll see if I can pull it up. Do I have my Worlds Without Number books somewhere here? Hold on a minute. I don't know if it's abbreviated. Do I have it here? I have it somewhere, but I don't know where. No, that's not it. Oh, no, none of those. Okay, not there. Let me see if I can find it. If I can find it, I will pull it. Because I think Worlds Without Number will give us some good stuff here. In the interim, what are you thinking about for a faction? Anybody have any ideas? Anybody need anything? Because obviously, if somebody has a need, I'm happy to operate off of that need, at least to start, until we get somewhere else. So please speak. Oops. Frederick says that's why a lot of RPG books are confusing to try to sample too many subjects. I mean, it's going to depend on the theme of the kind of game, right? It's hard. It is hard. I fall into this trap myself, where sometimes I'm maybe not as opinionated as I could be because I don't want to be a one true way person. But I also understand that the one true way type can be helpful to people because there are a lot of people out there who don't want to or just don't have the experience to say, like, oh, here's what I should have. They really just want someone to point them in a direction and say, no, here's what you should do. And say, okay, great, or not so great. But I understand if at the same time it's going to cheese some people off. It's a hard thing to balance. A circus troupe as a front for something. All right. So who is it? So what are they a front for, Ian? This is you came up with this one. So circus troupe. And they are their I guess would be so their goal. Well, let's just go with the circus troupe to start. So what they might be what might they be a front? So we're saying they're a front, but a front for what? A front de boeuf. What might they be a front for? What are they doing? Frederick has a new messenger guild. Interesting. Could we, let's see. So a circus group. Well, a circus group as a messaging service. Let's see. Ian says maybe they're looking for arcane artifacts. Can be a rival adventuring party in dungeons using the circus to collect rumors. Well, the thing is, Ian, not that there's anything wrong with that, but doesn't it seem like a lot of work? Like as a group of adventurers of which the party is one, there's not generally, I don't think you generally feel the need to have to go through a whole rigmarole of traveling as a circus group if the only thing you're doing is just trying to get information. So if this group, this faction is masquerading as a circus troupe, which I would assume includes whatever the fantasy version of booking dates and venues or traveling from town to town, it's got to be because their real goals, their real identity would be dangerous to them in some way. I don't know that just a rival adventuring group, why would they need to be circus folk? Why would they need to pretend? If they're worth their salt, they're able to subsist on their adventuring living, so they don't have to perform just to get some pennies for breakfast. So what would cause them to need this cover story? So a circus troupe probably not going to get intros. Maybe I would just term them differently. I don't know. When I think of circus troupe, I feel like I think of these people as performing for the people. These are not maybe they would eventually, if they were well known enough and maybe, I don't know, sophisticated or whatever enough, they could maybe get some private, maybe get a performance for the local lord, but I'm presuming that they're out for the people. So let's think about what this cover means to them if we want to keep it. WJ says because they like the circus. Well, sure, we all love the circus, but we don't usually have to pretend to be the circus to adventure. Unless we're adventuring, if you think about, well, why would you need to do this? Because you think about, well, we're in enemy country, right? We're adventurers of culture A, but we're deep behind enemy lines in culture B. And if they find out we're from culture A, they're going to murder us, kick us out, whatever. So that's why we're traveling as the circus, or we're subversives, or we're revolutionaries, or we're the old king and the new king who tried to kill us doesn't know, and we're trying to do something, right? So maybe this would go in our goals, but so I think we want to come up with something kind of compelling, right? We want to come up with something that, if a circus troupe is kind of this outer front, I want to make it something compelling, not just, oh, they like the circus, so they're circus performers. Oh, that's okay, but let's do better. I think we can do better. Let's do better. And if we can't do better, then maybe we should come up with something else, because it's just, I don't want to feel like it's just bolted on there. Well, they travel as circus performers just because. Like, okay. How about not just because? How about because there's a compelling reason for them to be doing this? So Frederick has an example of maybe something like smuggling. That might work. WJ pointing out, well, some people open businesses as hobbies or retirement. No, fair enough. But so the thing is, to me anyway, okay, this is just me, right? We're dealing with a fiction. We're dealing with this kind of game situation. I want things to be amped up. I want things to be, especially for what I feel like as a faction, that's going to be something that's going to interact with the party. I want it to be more than real, or more than, an amped up, a distilled version of reality. And dude opening up a circus just because I like the circuses is not that. If you were so imagine this. Imagine you're watching a morning show or one of these talk shows, and we're gonna have so and so. We're gonna have P.T. Barnum talk about his circus next on Good Morning America. All right, Good Morning America, come in, P.T. Hey, great. PT, tell us what drove you to found the largest circus in the history of circuses. And then PT turns to the camera and says, I just kind of like it. Not even I love it. Not even that's fine. I needed a hobby. Like, that's boring. I mean, even in a talk show now, you'd be going, man, could not come. I mean, if I was watching that TV, I'd be like, could you not come up with something a little bit more exciting? It's boring. WJ, whether PT was a comment or not is not the point. The point is that if you were to speak to PT Barnum and ask him about the circus, whether he's lying or telling the truth, he's going to come up with something a little bit more oomphy than just, I needed a hobby. Well, it was Friday, and I opened up the paper and saw circus. And I thought, why not open my own circus? And I'm sure that happens. I'm not even saying it's not unrealistic in terms of just realities, but I want to do more than reality. So I don't want to settle for just like, they just did it because that's to me means that, well, where's this idea leading us? If the idea of this is a circus troupe is just, like, I don't need the trappings just to have it. We could be anything. So let's come up with something better. And let's come up with a reason why they chose a circus troupe as opposed to just a traveling minstrel, as opposed to whatever it is. They chose a circus troupe. So let's make it meaningful. It's not always meaningful for us in our life, but I like to think of folks doing things in these situations as having some meaning, having something to us. And that it also tells us, if we come up with who's in this faction, it tells us something about them that they chose to do this as a circus. WJ says, can't a merchant be a merchant sometimes? Of course, but then I wouldn't be building a faction about that merchant. That merchant to me is not really a faction. They're just a merchant. But if they're a faction, if they have some goal that's bigger than just, I'm going to get rich doing merchant stuff, then I would ask that same question. Well, why are they a merchant? Or what do they feel like being a merchant is going to do for them? So if you have a merchant who wants to take over the world, then I would start thinking about, well, why did they choose this path as opposed to another path? And then you say, well, as a merchant, nobody blinks at you twice. As a merchant, you are given access to all kinds of people that you can't. In other words, as a merchant, I can do these things. I can use my contacts. I can use my underworld. I have access to these people. I can hide things better being a merchant. I can have properties in different countries. All these things you can say, if I'm taking over the world, being able to have warehouses in different places that, my video's frozen. All right, I'll re-hit the video. Let me just hide myself for a second. Let me see, hold on, let me do this actually. Stop and start. Hopefully, let me know if that worked. As a merchant, who cares? Yeah, but as a merchant, as a faction, I want to ask deeper questions. That's part of, to me, the difference of just an individual. And I was actually thinking about this earlier, difference between an individual and a faction, because the faction can be an individual, but a faction tends to have goals and things that are above and beyond just being excellent at what they're doing. So the tavern keeper who just likes to run their tavern, I don't think it's really a faction. A tavern keeper that has goals, let's say, keep the town that my village is in safe, that's a faction, right? And then I want to ask questions. In this case, if I was starting from an individual, I might ask slightly different questions because maybe they were a tavern keeper first and then they created a faction. But in this case, we're starting from a blank slate in terms of the faction. So if we're going to say they're a circus troupe, I want that to be meaningful. At least for me, frozen in a different frame. I'll try it again. Let me try that. Let me stop again. Anyone else having this problem? All right, let me see. It's not freezing for me. Hold on, let me do one other thing just in case I'm not seeing something. I'm not showing it being frozen, but goodness knows I might not. So let me know. Okay, so it is frozen. Frederick's giving a whole list of fantasy liquors over there. All right, maybe we should ditch the circus troupe if no one's got any grand ideas for the circus troupe. Sorry about the frozenness. I'm not sure what else to do because I'm not seeing it as being frozen. Let me see if I turn off. Is it me that's frozen? Because I'm just in the picture-in-picture, so image just moved. I don't know. Now I'm a podcast. All right, well, I'm going to keep going, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll catch up. So I need ideas here. So we have a circus troupe potential, but we don't seem to have much inspiration in terms of why it's a circus troupe. So we might have to ditch the circus troupe if we can't come up with something. A town criers guild, they demand free speech for criers. I suppose that's an idea. I kind of like the circus troupe, but I just need to know what it's for. Why are they a circus troupe? Well, what does a circus troupe get? Let's let's think about what a circus troupe gets. What would make a circus troupe a good cover and for what? So, and hopefully you can see this. If you can't, I'm writing benefits of being a circus troupe or a circus. Probably they're going to get generally free access to different city, to different places. Right? They're going to be they're going to be generally liked by the people. They're probably not going to get too much. Let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? They're probably not going to be. Oh, what's the word? I keep want to say exposition, but I don't mean exposition. Oh, unseelie fae that feed off dark dreams. I like that. I feel like I've seen kind of thing before, but that's fine. Unseelie fae who feed off of dark dreams. All right. That's cool. Creepy. I'm going to turn my camera off and on again. Let's see if that fixes it. Let me know because I'm starting to type stuff in here. So if you're not seeing the whiteboard getting updated, then that means we're stuck. All right. So we got a circus troupe who are a front for unseelie fae who feed off dark dreams. What kind of goals might they have? What do they want to do? It says, I bet they'd have a haunted house, but it's probably going to travel with them. I guess you could do, I mean, I'm sure there's some kind of spell still stuck. All right, well, I'm going to keep going because I can't do anything but keep going at the moment. I'll have to see later on if it is just stuck for everybody. Maybe the recording that's happening in the Clued will be not stuck. It's really weird because usually I kind of get a pretty good sense of what's happening on the stream, but this stream, for whatever reason, I'm not. Let me see if it doesn't kill my bandwidth to actually check out the stream on YouTube. Maybe I'll see what's happening over there. Let's see. Yeah, view on YouTube. Where am I stuck? Am I stuck? I am indeed stuck. That is so weird. Yep, I am stuck. But I'm kind of moving also because weird. All right, I'm gonna go with it because it is updating my changes because the whiteboard is updating. It's just going slow. And now the audio is going slow. La, 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 la. All right. All right. Nothing. Let me. I don't know how to. I do not know how to pause this or do something without killing the entire stream. So what can I do? What can I? Let me know if that worked. I check. No, I should be back. Frederick says we can make them the good guys. Circus troop moves supplies for the rebellion. That's another option. Am I? Let me see myself. No, it's showing me frozen still. Why am I gone? All right. Audio is back. I'm waiting to see if YouTube's showing me as being back. 2 frames a minute. What the jeepers? Jeepers creepers. All right. Weird stuff because nothing's showing as being bad on my end, but all right, audio's clear. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. Audio's clear. And hopefully the video part of the stream, it's weird because you think if the if the video or the audio, the video is bad, then the audio would be bad also. Let me try just doing one more stop. Start. It just doesn't want to show my video. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can do. I haven't had any audio issues. Okay, weird. Because I'm seeing the video, but then I'm a bug in the machine, but I can't seem to figure it. Can't seem to figure it. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I see. So now I have video back, but I'm stuck. All right. I guess, well, there's not much going on with the video. You know what? I'll even hide myself because it's really just the whiteboard that's important, and I'm not doing that much. All right. So I'm going to go with the first version, or the version of them being evil, just because we came up with that, and we came up with it. And if I don't keep going forward, and we'll never get anywhere. Edward says, maybe the leader of the circus and a few of the circus members are spies or agents for a kingdom. That's another idea. Maybe we can, maybe we'll make them. Yeah. So we're going to do, we'll put another thing here. So very basic here. So we'll have that at least some of them are involved directly with the unseelie court. So they're not just unseelie elves, fae, doing stuff. They actually, some of them actually are spies and direct operatives. Direct operatives of the court. And then this way we can actually have some, we could think about maybe some factional drama of, do all the folks have the same goals? If they have some folks that are working directly for the unseelie court, may have certain goals that may or may not necessarily contradict, but just run slightly counter to the goals of the court itself. And again, apologies for all the audio video technical stuffs. I'm not exactly sure what to do about it. Nothing I've done seems to have worked, and I could try restarting my machine or doing something drastic, but then we'll just lose a bunch of time. Should I do it? Let me know. If it's bad enough, I'll consider the nuclear option of restarting my machine and hopefully being able to pick up the stream again on the other side. Or if I should keep going. So I'm looking at YouTube and it's showing me as being frozen like a Disney princess. But the audio seems to be all right. You know what? I'm going to do it. All right. Hang on. Hold on a quick sec. I'm going to restart. I'm going to come back, and hopefully this will kill any problems like a nuclear All right. Can you folks, a little weird lag for a second or two? All right, let me know. I just restarted and I'm back. Hopefully nothing untoward. Hopefully it's an improvement. The only other thing I can think about is that I do run things through, like it's not Restream, but it's something similar to Restream. And it is possible that the issue isn't actually on my end where I'm connecting to the Restream. It's the audio could be connected to, or the difficulty could be connected to their end. I tend to think it's myself, but you know, there is a chance. There is a chance that is somebody else. So let me know in the chat if you guys are hearing me, and if you're seeing that the whiteboard is updated with a few things that I put in. If you're seeing me. If you're not seeing me, well, then that will be an issue. So if you know, like, let me pull up YouTube just to take a look. Yeah, YouTube. Oh, my restart stuff is coming in, which is I'll try to go a little over too. Whiteboard is very blurry. Audio is okay. Weird. Whiteboard's blurry. Audio is okay. Well, I tend to think the audio is the best part, but it shouldn't be blurry. I can zoom. When I look on YouTube. Oh, that's why. That is why. All right. So hopefully, I'm sort of going back and forth between what the YouTube, looking at on YouTube, hoping that it's not too just crazy killing my bandwidth, and then looking at it myself. When I'm looking at it myself, all right. There we go. It's looking all right to me. Is it pretty much? There's a delay too, so that's annoying. All right, I'm going. Audio's all right. I'll have to just do with blurry audio. Blurry audio. Blurry whiteboard. All right, so we got looks right, not sure frozen. Yeah. I'm going to leave myself off just because if it is frozen, then at least it won't look, I'll be caught in some weird thing. Other than that, if you see my mouse kind of moving around and doing stuff, then it's probably working. And if it's stuck, then it's stuck. I have to think it might be Melon and not me at this point. Anyhow, let's get back to it. A faction, a circus troupe, front for unseelie fae who feed off of dark dreams, unseelie court. Some of the troop are spies and direct operatives of the court. There may be some conflict. May arise some conflict between these operatives and the troop at large. Now, what are their goals? Maybe they want to create. Well, let's just give them. I mean, it's a suitably maniacal goal of trying to create a nightmare world, or maybe trap the world in a nightmare dream. dream that they can feed from eternally, and probably, you know, get power and yada yada yada, right? They can get the world stuck in some kind of nightmare dream, and we're talking about the human world, I guess, or the, I don't know, the non-Fey world, not the I don't know. I'm just gonna put the world, whatever. I think we get it. Frozen but clear. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with it. It'll update a frame at a time, and we'll see things. So we've got a goal. So we got a faction who's a circus troupe, a front for unseelie Fae who feed off of dark dreams. Their goal is to trap the world in a massive nightmare that they can feed off of permanently and eternally. They do have some connection to the unseelie court. We haven't determined yet whether the goal of the unseelie court matches what the goal of the troop is. Maybe during this time, because obviously we'll just assume that they're not super close to making this happen. This is their end goal, but it's probably a long ways off. Who knows? We'd have to think about. I mean, we could think about, well, what, you know, going back to when we created a plot, we could think about what the heck do they have to do to try to ensnare the entire world in some kind of nightmare that they can't wake up from, sort of thing. But that's their ultimate goal. And then if we were to put these guys in play and they were going to start working towards that goal, maybe at some point, some of the unseelie court who are not nice folks, but they just have a different, they don't maybe want what these guys want, either because at some point, if this troop were able to succeed at this, then they would become more powerful than the unseelie court themselves. The unseelie court would lose control over them. Maybe something else would happen. Who knows? We don't know, but that is their ultimate goal. So their area of operations is mostly they're traveling, right? It travels with the troop. They're mobile. But they're building influence. Did I spell it? Yeah, I did. But they build influence in the places that they perform in and frequent. I sort of like the idea of them. There's someone saying about smuggling artifacts. So I'm going to put that in here. I kind of like the idea of they have sort of the secondary operations right there. And maybe I should put primary and secondary operations. So, oh yeah, that works, but I want to put you up there. There we go. So the primary operations are performing as a circus, and then they're trying to whatever the mechanics of their nightmare feeding is. So they're doing I'm not even sure what to call that. They are propagating nightmares, feeding on them to gain power, and then they're also researching, or I guess maybe it would be trying to complete long-term plot of submerging the world in an endless nightmare. Okay. Those are their primary goals. But I do like, as a secondary operation, them trafficking in, dangerous artifacts. What happened there? Oh, you get out of there. What? Oh, well, that's lame. I didn't mean to do that. Secondary operations. That's what I want to do. Trafficking in dangerous magical artifacts. The reason why I like that as a secondary goal is it gives them something else they can do. It's another angle. So I like to think of angles for the faction, but also angles for how the party might come into contact with the factions. Of course, the main one is through them performing somewhere. They're performing. There are nightmares. If the party's interested in such, then that is obviously a great way to put the two groups in contact with each other. However, I don't necessarily want that to be the only way that they come into contact with one another. We can also think about, well, what else is the troop doing? How else might they be gaining influence? Not everybody's going to be particularly impressed with a circus, even if it's a dark, crazy circus. Not everybody is going to care about that. It's not going to be important to everybody. So you want to think about, well, in those cases, and I think especially the leader types probably aren't going to be super circus oriented. They may appreciate it. They may see some value in it in terms of bread and circuses sort of thing, but that might not gain you entree into their inner circle because you're a circus. Oh, great. We'll bring you in. Yeah, we got this. We got a 3-day festival, and oh, look, the circus is here. Yeah. Please come perform. It'll be great. Probably not getting a private audience. However, if a local lord is maybe of a somewhat sinister bent and they need something or they want something out of it, they need something for their own dark purposes, and they also know that whatever's going on with this circus folk, somehow they tend to have stuff to help. That is something that maybe could get them entree where their circus performing could not. And of course, it's another angle for the party to get interjected in here. Maybe they want a dark artifact, in which case maybe they hook up with the circus. Maybe they hear about this trafficking. Maybe one of these lords gets a hold of this dark artifact, does something nasty, and as the party's dealing with that, it comes out about, well, where the heck did you get this thing? Oh, I got it from the circus. And then it's, well, that's interesting, because why the heck would a circus have this weird artifact? And then we get to the Batmobile, and then, and then the chase is on, kind of thing. And then it might also explain, in terms of these magical artifacts, why are they getting them? Well, it goes back to their ultimate goal. Their goal in dealing with those artifacts isn't just to make money and intro, but it also could be that they're trying to find stuff. This feeds into their goal of creating nightmare fuel or whatever it is that they're doing, and that these secondary operations are in fact because they are looking for stuff, and when they have stuff that, oh, this is creepy, it doesn't work for this reason or that reason, well, what can we do with it? Oh, we could sell it down the line. We can give it to this guy. We could also think of kind of fey things. Maybe it's the kind of, you think of the dealing with the Fae and all the weird things that happen, kind of that sort of, like dealing with genies. Fae bargains. Magical effects. How about magical effects? I don't know. What do we say? Like, what kind of things might also be, services? We could also think that these also might work together. Now, what else have we got here? So we got a who they are. They're a circus troupe front for Unseelie Fae, which is kind of the who and the what. What are they? A circus troupe. Who are they? Unseelie Fae. Their goals, we got a goal. Trap the world in a nightmare dream they can feed from eternally. That's great. Their area of operations, they're mobile, but they're going to build influences in the places that they perform in and frequent. So we could probably come up with, in some kind of snapshot of time, you can just think about, well, these are the places they've gone that have gone well. And you can also think about, again, going back to this secondary operation, the magical artifacts, that they might be leaving a little bit of a trail behind them, not just in terms of physically where they rested, but also they're probably leaving discord in their wake. They are probably the nightmares, weird artifacts. These things are kind of following them around somewhat. And all this stuff leads to a growing influence. Maybe the more stuff they're spreading around, that the pool of dreams is growing bigger. We could probably think about what it means. What does this nightmare feeding mean? Or what is this? So this growing nightmares spread with the troop performances, spread with the artifacts and fey bargains left in their wake. Now we can think about this Gorewing. How about growing? Can we do growing, please, for $1? There we go. And maybe something that might be considered is, with these growing nightmares, there's going to be potentially some tipping point. No, that's not what I want to do. Will there be a tipping point in terms of the area that they spread the nightmares in? Like, is that the ticking clock, basically? Is that, if as all this is happening, will there be some kind of ticking clock of the Fae, of this darkness, quote unquote darkness, nightmare darkness that's spreading over the area? It's probably beyond the scope of this stream today, but you could come up with how many total in the troop there are, total membership. I don't know, probably pretty, I'll say 50. 50 Fae, but in various guises with various jobs. Do we think that there would be any non-Fae? Do you think that they've hoodwinked? Would they have some human, kind of like the Renfield types? What do they call it with vampires, where they have their human familiars? Let's make it some, I don't know. Let's say 40. Well, let's make it a smaller number. So we'll say 24 actual Fae and another 36 human familiars. Yeah, Ian, familiars. Yeah, I came with. Yeah, that's what I was thinking it's called. We could probably come up with some other thing. I don't even know if this concept exists, but it could be as simple as, especially playing old school, that they succumbed to charm spells, right? Because charm would do it over for months at a time, or not to say months, but maybe weeks. Could be months, I suppose, if you get unlucky. But maybe we could even give them, maybe part of their, if we were going to write up what these Fae were, some of their Fae powers might be some kind of permanent or semi-permanent charm or something else. In any case, they've got some humans, and maybe some of them aren't even charmed at all. They're just hoodwinked. They really feel like they're just working for a circus, and the inner workings of the the performers. In fact, I'm even going to make it less. I'm going to cut this in half. It's like 12. I really like the idea of having a lot of, we'll say 48. So you have a few of the Fae, and of that Fae, some of them are operatives for the Unseelie Court, and some of them is just what they're doing. And then you have a bunch of these human familiars who are doing, because I imagine the Fae probably, as they are consider themselves having some kind of higher purpose. They don't want to, clean the troughs and do the animal blecs and all that sort of thing. They just want to they just want to perform and do whatever. So they're going to leave some of the handiwork to, or the grunt work to others, which to me at least fits in with a certain archetype of the sort of haughty elf type, haughty fey creature who doesn't want to do grunt work. So they're going to have a bunch of humans doing that for them. Most of the humans, maybe there's a couple that are more confidant familiars that might know something of what's happening, but for the most part they're patsies, right? They're charmed, or they're just employed, and they, as far as they know, they're working for the circus. And the ones that are charmed don't even ask that question. But I do like the idea that this faction has kind of two levels. You have sort of the inner level and then this outer level. And the inner level is this dark thing. The outer level is just, hey, we're a circus. I think I kind of like that. I think it makes more sense to me than everybody of a large troop knowing what's up. I'm guessing that all the performers are those 12 Fae. Like, they're the ones doing all the tricks and stuff. And then it's all the stuff. Who's taking apart all the tents, who's putting the tents together, who's feeding the horses, who's cooking the meals, all that stuff is the Fae. Now we could probably come up with, like I said, I'll leave it outside this for now, but we could, since especially for just the 12 Fae, we could make characters for all of them and give them some roles and specialties, or what they do, what is their trickery. There's probably one that's the ringmaster, just not even necessarily in terms of who's running the show. You could have some fun with that if maybe the ringmaster is also the ringmaster of the faction, but it also could be that someone who is not is somebody you think is unassuming is actually running the show. We could have some fun with that as well, but for the moment I'll just leave it blank. Let's see. I don't have any amazing. Something I should have looked up was some kind of, if we're gonna come up with some kind of mechanics for what's going on. Probably do that another time. I have some various things that I'll throw out there, but nothing that I've written in stone. I kind of just try to use somewhat what we came up with in the plots in terms for things that the faction is doing. But you could probably just do something simple, like have a 1d6 for faction influence. So that you would for every place they have any presence at all, which would, you could, depending on how globe trotting you want them to be, they might have an influence in, you might want to measure this all over the map, but I would probably go with some kind of X and 6 notation. Higher is stronger in terms of the faction. When we need to check something against it, we just roll a d6. Let's see if the result is lower or equal to this faction's score, then faction influence is manifest. So basically the idea here would be you could go through and you could have a rating just using an X and 6. If you feel like you need more granularity, you could go D20, something in 20, and then you would essentially roll a die. If you're in a situation, we're in town B. All right, in town B, we determined that the circus has an influence of 2. Okay, so then something's happening and we want to check. Maybe we want to check, well, did this get, the party's in town B and they're asking about the circus. They're in the tavern, they're in the place, they're asking, does word get back to does the circus learn about this through somebody, somebody hears, somebody tells, and all down the line until the game of telephone ends at someone at the circus with someone saying, hey man, and I was just in town B and these adventurers are asking about you, kind of thing. Well, you could roll that. You could roll a D6, and if you got 1 or 2, so it'd be about a 33% chance, then bam, they figured it out, or they've got word, and you can figure out how long you want that to be to take. You could look at how far away the faction is in distance, or whatever. You could roll more dice, and then if you rolled above it, then I would say, oh no, they don't. And I would probably cap it at 5. I would say we've really got 5, because there's always a chance, even if they are basically dominating the place, there's always a chance that they don't find out. So if you're going to go all the way to 6, then that might be, I would say you could go to 6 if you could possibly if you're going to be adjusting the dice for other factors, because I think it should not be just a foregone conclusion all the time they're going to hear it. But it'll be, if you have 5 out of 6, if you have influence 5, there's a really good chance. You only have about a 16% chance or so that they're not going to hear. So I feel like that's a pretty darn high number. And I see that I've been frozen again for a while on this one spot. So apologies for the screen thing. Oh, no, now it's showing that I'm not. That's weird. When I refresh YouTube just to check, I get different things. Very strange. Okay, so we've got that influence. We might be able to tag in there. I don't know what else I want to do. What are the things we want to think about in terms of factions? What else is important to us? We got the power level of the faction. What influence is a type of power, but then we have physically, how strong are they, or just how. And I think I don't think I need to come up with that here. I think you could kind of play with that. I mean, these seem to be pretty strong. I don't know. To me, when I'm looking at it, just conceptually, what this faction is, what they're doing, and what their goals are. These goals are world altering. They're doing really strong things. So to me, that lends me to think that this is a fairly powerful faction. So I probably wouldn't unleash them on some low-level party. This is something that maybe you're getting hints and dribbles of, but it's something you're not going to tackle until you got some adventuring under your belt. But you can kind of play with that, I think, to your own, however you think it works for you. They have a mobile area of operations. They have no particular headquarters. Their headquarters is going to be wherever they're laying their heads, which is an interesting conceptually for the faction, because there is some danger involved, because they're traveling. They're usually not, depending on how you want to play their influence, there's a potential that they're exposed. Now, what defenses and things they might have because they're exposed, it's a neat thing to think about, because if you're a traveling circus, depending on your setting and everything else, you may not be able to land near a settlement everywhere you go. And then even if you can, those settlements, a lot of them, the smaller ones, aren't equipped to handle you. So you're going to be, maybe you can park inside the village green that's in the walls. Maybe you can sit right outside the walls. Who knows? Maybe even some of the authority figures might want to say one way or another whether you can or cannot be within their walls. But you're somewhat, you don't have a castle around you all the time, maybe none of the time. So that would be an interesting option, but it also means that you don't have a single place where folks can find you. You're not, your home is where you lay your head, so to speak. Or maybe we want to give them, you could think about, well, do we want to give them a headquarters somewhere? Do we want to give them something? Or, maybe we think about, maybe this makes sense in terms of a headquarters that they can't tour all the time. Presumably in the winter, unless they're invited to somebody's winter court, which is a kind of a plot point we could think about, in terms of their goals and what they're doing, if they gain enough influence to get an invitation for a permanent winter residence, maybe they try to use that to their advantage to do something or other. Or do we think about, well, maybe they have to have something, a stronghold of some sort that they're using when they're off touring, because they can't tour. It's just not really possible to tour all year round. I like the idea of maybe winter court that they're trying to. I know we don't really have a plot area. I'm going to call these plot points just in terms of things that they'd like to do. They'd like to gain enough influence to lure a powerful patron. Obtain residence at a winter court, because they do want to move around, right? Because their whole thing is we want to move around because moving around is allowing us to spread our nightmares. At the same time, they recognize that they're not going to be able to perform all the time, because there's just a certain period of time where the travel is going to be bad and people are just going to be kind of bunkered down doing whatever. So in terms of both just the practical side of performing, they need to have an off season of sorts, or they're going to be an off season is going to be forced upon them. So how do you handle the off season? Well, maybe they want to gain, maybe that's another one of their goals, gain enough influence to lure a popular patron, obtain residence at a winter court. That's one thing. Another one thing would be to obtain a land grant. Obtain a land grant and permanent residence. Because at some point they're going to want to do some rituals and they're going to want privacy from prying eyes. Hard to do when you're camped out in the middle of town or even on the outskirts of town. So having somewhere they can call their own, and somewhere that's also, under the protection of a patron, because they could theoretically just go out into the wild, depending on your setting, go out in the wild and do this thing. The problem is that it's not, because it's outside the law, so to speak, it opens them up to all kinds of things, not the least of which is whoever has ownership, even if it's just in name only, of that land, is either going to start to tax them or not going to feel, or going to feel that something's going on, or maybe raise suspicions, whatever. So, but if you can get somebody, if you can get one of these folks to give you a land grant, say, oh, no, hey, here, you're a wonderful, we love you. Let's give you somewhere to stay. Then that would be great. So I'm going to put those as kind of things that they'd like to achieve. It's not their end goal, but it's things that either will help them on their way. It's definitely things that you could think about if the real long-term macro goal is creating the world nightmare. These are things that are kind of helpers along the way, steps or just helpers. Okay, we don't need to have these things necessarily if we want to make it happen. Ultimately, we can do without them, but is it really nice if we can get these things? Sure. So these are the kind of short-term goals, kind of helper goals. I can't really think of anything else. I mean, they definitely need to obtain certain artifacts and spells for sure. That's another one. Somewhere in trying to figure out all the stuff they're going to need to get. They need the Tome of Al-Qadir. They need the leg of St. Andrew. They need, I don't know, a penny. So they got to get those things also. Is there anything else that we're missing here in terms of this faction? Any last bits we think we're not having that we need? We've got a Who. They're a circus troupe, but they're just a front for Unseelie Fae. Their goals: trap the world in a nightmare dream they can feed from eternally. They operate mobile. They're mobile. They don't have a particular space of operations. They're traveling the countryside, and they're trying to build influences in the places that they perform in and frequent. Their primary things that they're doing is they're performing as a circus, They're propagating nightmares and feeding on them to gain power. And I'm assuming that some of that comes from the circus acts, but maybe they're doing other things as well, spells, whatnot, maybe stuff in the food. You go and you buy food, you drink stuff there, whatever. There's also things in there. There's probably, we could think about, we wanted to kind of break down, well, how are they using the circus, using this front to spread their nightmare fuel or whatever they're doing to create the nightmares. So I kind of like nightmare fuel as a word for that. And then they've got this long-term plot of submerging the world in an endless nightmare. They have secondary operations, which is that they traffic in dangerous magical artifacts and maybe spells and other stuff as well. And that's one, it's a function of them trying to get the stuff they need for their ultimate goal, but it's also another way for them to gain influence. For folks who are not particularly impressed with the circus, maybe they're impressed with the kind of bargains that they can make with them, which is using the artifacts to create magical effects for folks, or committing other services, making those sort of bargains, which is another way of spreading their influence and also potentially spreading the nightmares. And in terms of membership, there's 12 Fae in various guises with various jobs, and then 48 human familiars, saps, cronies, that sort of thing. There are a couple of the Fae are spies and direct operatives of the Unseelie Court itself, and there may be conflict between these operatives and the troop at large in terms of what they're trying to do and their goals. The growing nightmares are spread with true performances, and they're also spread with artifacts and Fae bargains that are left in their wake. And we have a question of, is it just a matter of tipping enough area footage before some kind of globe of nightmare is unleashed, where some part of the world will just be covered in a perpetual cloud of nightmare, or do they have to have some actual ritual, or maybe a little bit of A and B? We came up with some faction influence using a simple X and 6 notation. The higher numbers are stronger, and then if we need to roll for the influence, you just roll that 6-sided die. If you get their number or less, then the influence is manifested however we need it to be. And then the plot points we've got for them are they want to gain enough influence to lure a powerful patron, obtain residence in a winter court, obtain a land grant and permanent residence, and also obtain certain artifacts and spells. So that's just a mere a tipping of the iceberg in terms of stuff they want and need, but I think it's a good start. We didn't come up with a name. I'm not sure. Do we have any names? Do we have any names? I'm just looking up here if there are any historical circus names that we could use for inspiration. These look like they're all. Yeah, these are not. So what is this? Who's Who in American Circuses? Sturtevant's list of circuses? Well, that's interesting. A Sturtevant's list of circuses. I might have to leave this for another time, but they're not actually that. Welsh Brothers Wagon Show, the Sun Brothers, Sig Sautel, Tuttle's Olympic, Bonner Brothers, Shot Brothers, Rhoda Royale. Yeah, there are a lot of brothers and things, or just so-and-so and so-and-so. Merchants American RR shows. Yeah, there's nothing. I'm not seeing anything amazing. It's funny, the names of these shows are not particularly crazy. Yeah, I'll have to think about it. So to come up with here's a homework assignment. Come up with some circus names and post them in the comments, or post them in the forums or somewhere, and we'll have to go through them. I wish the stream had gone better. I'm not sure what went wrong. I have a feeling it might be Melon and not me. If I go back and I look at the recording and the recording doesn't have all this nonsense, then I will upload the recording to YouTube and just hide this one so these folks can see it. And I'll try to edit out the parts where I'm just trying to figure out what's going wrong. So if I have a clean version of that, I will do that. Otherwise, folks, I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully these issues will be behind us. If you did end up listening to this, hopefully it's useful to you. I will collate this stuff and post it to the forums at some point. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I wish I could have fixed it, but it doesn't look like I was able to. But there's always tomorrow. So later on, everybody, game on. I was going to give the salute, but you can't see me, so it's pointless. But later, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I will talk to you later.